Remember that Kickdrum plugin that I showed a couple of months back on my channel? I got a lot of comments from people that really liked it and a few comments from people that didn't really like it because it was missing some features. So today I want to spend a little bit of time looking into how it's doing now. So as you can see, here we have a project open and you can immediately see that I actually have two versions of this plugin open. This is the version that I showed last time, and this is actually the new beta version that is out right now. Now, for anybody that has already purchased this particular version, this is free of charge. And I believe up until the official release date of version number 2, this plugin will still be $22. So that will be both versions of the plugin. That will be the first version as well as the beta version. But today we're obviously going to focus on this beta version over here. So let's click out of this and let's make this full screen so that we can really analyze what is going on here. Now, of course, this plugin is still in beta, so there is a lot of work that still needs to be done on it. There's more features that are going to be added to it. But I just want to give you an overview of where the plugin is now because it has really improved a lot. And I think this is one of the coolest plugins now that there's just out. End of story. Like not in just Kickdrum creation, but just in general. And one of the reasons why I say that is because of the developers of this plugin. What they have done is not just like decided to continue upgrading their plugin and actually add new features to a plugin, which is not something that you see often. But they're also just listening to the community. They have been looking at the comments under my last video, but also other places, and they've been looking for feedback on their plugin and just actually like taking the feedback that they're getting and actually implementing that into the plugin. In fact, right before I recorded this particular video, I had a call with the developer and we actually talked about what I would like to see for the plugin, and also he walked me through all of the new features so that I could properly present them to you guys. So overall, this plugin is not just the story of a plugin that just keeps getting better and better and is already very good at what it does, but it's also the story of a developer that does its very best to actually make proper plugins and to give them to you at a fair price. So as you can see, looking at the actual interface, there's quite a lot of new stuff in here. The main thing that you're probably going to see is everything that is happening up here. And the reason why this is very interesting is because now it is a completely modular system. In the sense that if I want to have another EQ in here, I can just click here and add another EQ. I can just click here and maybe add another oscillator if I want. I can go in here and give that oscillator an envelope. So you can imagine you no longer have access to just one oscillator with one pitch and amplitude envelope and an EQ. But you can just build up however many EQs, pitch envelopes, and other envelopes that you want. Now you can see over here that this looks kind of like a group in the sense that this is all attached together. You can see that there's a little bracket over here and there's a little indent over here. But that is not happening over here. And what that means is that we actually need to do that if we want to, for example, apply this envelope to the oscillator over here, as opposed to the entire signal that is coming after it. So let's put this envelope over here. Let's put this EQ in here as well. Right there. And now you can see we have the same setup as we have here, just twice. Now, as you can see, it is a little bit of a mess in here. It's not really clear what is going on in here. So let's just turn off the master waveform and let's start focusing on individual waveforms over here. So we can go into the oscillator. We can change the pitch however we want. Let's say that we want something like this, like that. We'll move this up, we'll move this up, and we'll move this up. And now let's actually look at the envelope over here. If you just click on here, you can see that you get a different envelope. Of course, we cannot see that because we're looking at this waveform over here. So let's go into the envelope so that we can look at that waveform instead. And we can make the changes that we want. And then we'll go on to the next bit over here. We want to do a little bit of EQing. Let's say that we want to EQ a little bit like this, and a little bit like that, and a little bit like that. We just do our EQing. And the cool thing is, let's say now that you want to say, okay, what is actually happening with the EQ? How do I see what is happening with, like, what is the EQ actually doing to the signal? What I can do is I actually can turn on this one over here as well, and maybe fill this one up over here. And then let's make this one a little bit less bright. You do that by dragging up and down here, as you can see. And now you can see exactly where the two curves differ. Now I'm quickly going to delete this bit over here again, and you do that by double clicking over here. This is so that you don't accidentally close out of a setup that you have over here. So say that you want to click on here and just select it. If you click it once, as you can see, nothing happens. You have to double click here and that deletes the actual device. Now, given that a lot of the controls have moved up in here, if you remember before, here is where you turned on and off the EQ. Here is where you switch between pitch editing and amplitude editing. And some of the controls have been made a little bit smaller and chucked in a little bit more, have been made a little bit more organized. What you'll see is that we have this extra panel over here, which is where the main controls of each of the different parts happen over here. As you can see, this is coming with the volume, the mix over here for the harmonics that we're going to talk about later. And then the envelope just comes with a mix, and so does the EQ. And this is a mix that actually works. Like this is a mix of the actual EQ that you see over here. When we go into the envelope, this is a mix of the actual envelope between not having an envelope and actually mixing in the envelope. To actually show what happens properly, we have to turn off the EQ over here, of course, so that you can see that if we turn this all the way down, you just get a flat line of the sine wave. And then if we turn it all the way up, we get the envelope that we actually want over here. Now, one of the controls which I briefly mentioned before is the harmonics over here. This allows you to introduce extra harmonics into the kick drum signal, which you can see I'm doing over here. Let's add maybe this one, and this one. And of course, you're going to say this sounds terrible. And it indeed does. But maybe there's some cool things that we can do with this. Specifically, if we were able to remove the harmonic content over here where the sub is going to be. Well, as it turns out, you can actually do that. If you hover over the mix here, you can see that this is automatable. You can see the automation knob over here. And you just click that. And then we can set where we want the harmonics to be. So I'll create a point over here. And then I'll just move this down. So we'll move this down over here. Move this down over here. So that just for the transient, we get those harmonics. And now we get a nice beefy kick drum. Of course, you can shape it however you want. If you want a really strong transient, you'll do something like this. Maybe even a little bit lower here. A little bit quicker. Just a nice click if you want a little bit more of a messy kick drum. Maybe a little bit longer still. You can start to hear that distortion of this part over here coming in. So actually, just with the harmonics themselves, you can actually massively alter the tonality of the transient and the tonality of the kick as a whole if you want to do that as well. But I would mainly use this kind of stuff for the transients because on the lower sub parts, this is not really something that you would want. That being said though, there is another way to actually do this, and that is through a sample. Now this was a very big complaint of the last plugin in that there wasn't a sample layer included. And personally, I didn't really get this kind of criticism when it comes to layering samples on top of kick drums. I tend to do that outside of the plugin anyway, because it allows me to send the samples into different channels inside of SizeScope, and it allows me to check them there. But now we no longer have to do that because kick drum also accepts samples. So you can go in here, add your sample, and you just browse for a sample. Now I've just loaded up a hi-hat sample, and as you can see, it shows up right here. Let's turn this off so that we can just focus on the sample over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move this sample around a little bit. I want it to be a little bit shorter. Maybe I want to start it a little bit later here. Maybe like this. I want it to fade out a little bit quicker. I'm just going to make it nice and sharp so that it just focuses on the transient. Again, stretch it a little bit. As you can see, this is actually raising the pitch up over here and actually raising the speed up as well, as you can see like this. Actually over here, it gives a percentage in length, I believe, because right now it's 50%, but we made it shorter, so it should be playing faster. It should be playing at 200% speed, but result in a length of 50%. But I think that is still understandable. Like, if you know what you were doing, you know that, okay, I have half the length of the sample here, so that makes sense. Again, this is also still in beta, so this is maybe something that needs to be changed later on. But now we have our kick transient. And if we want to just listen to the transient, we'll turn off this oscillator real quick over here. We have this transient over here. And together with our kick drum, you can hear that we have a nice little click to it. Maybe we want it a little bit longer though. There you can hear it. We'll make it come through a bit more. There you go. Now there's some other controls over here. There's the padding and the volume over here. Of course, this is the global volume, and then here you have the volume envelope. But the padding also has an envelope, so if you wanted to start at the left for some reason and then quickly move to the right, you would do something like this. I don't know why you would want to do that, but there is the option, so maybe that is something interesting to experiment with. Now, as of now, there aren't actually any samples included with this, so you would need to still provide your own samples, but I'm sure that he's working on that in the future. He also told me that he wants to implement a pitch control over here, so there's a way that you can pitch up the sample up or down so that you get a few more tonalities out of it if you need to, as opposed to just being able to change the pitch by changing the length over here. Another thing that they're still working on is extra modules for the modular system up here. On the website, it says that he's still working on both a clipper and a saturator module. And he also told me that he may want to look into stuff like a noise module so that you can synthesize claps and snares and other percussions and stuff like that. But of course, as I said, he's still working on this plugin. He's still actively developing it. So it's not quite sure what exactly is going to be added to this plugin. So overall, this plugin is getting a massive upgrade, as you can see, and it's just becoming bigger and bigger. And to be honest, this is turning out to be the perfect kick drum creation plugin, not just for psytrance, but also for a whole bunch of other genres, especially if the developer also manages to implement a clipper, saturator, and a noise oscillator. But even disregarding these features, you can see that as a free update, when it comes to like free updates to plugins, this is a very big kind of update to a plugin. This is like a redesign to the actual plugin. So to me, it's just really cool that we're getting this kind of redesign of a plugin for free. And this is a plugin, of course, that I've been following a little bit. I've done some videos on it before. So hopefully I get to feature it many, many more times on my channel, because I just want to support this kind of project, because I just think that this kind of stuff is just really, really cool. Anyway, that's going to be it for today. I hope that you enjoyed this little extra walkthrough of the new beta version of this plugin. Let me know if you did by leaving a like, and make sure that you're subscribed. You can also support me by checking out some more of my content. So there will be 2 videos up on the screen right now for you to choose from. So just pick one and enjoy, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.